In the far reaches of the galaxy, the Vortarians ruled with confidence and pride. Their technology was unmatched. Their cities gleamed with the brilliance of 1,000 stars, and their empire stretched across countless systems. For centuries, they had been the top of the galactic hierarchy, believing they were the greatest civilization ever to exist. One day, Vortarian scientists noticed something strange. A new species was rapidly advancing in space technology. These were the humans from a small blue planet called Earth. At first, the Vortarians dismissed this as a minor anomaly. After all, how could a primitive species like humans, who had only just begun to explore the stars, pose any real threat? But as years went by, the Vortarians grew more curious. Humans had managed to build powerful spacecraft, explore new worlds, and even establish colonies across the galaxy. Their technology was improving at a rate that was startling. What was even more surprising was how quickly humans adapted to space travel and challenges. The Vortarians decided to send a team of their best observers to Earth. They wanted to understand how humans were achieving so much so quickly. The team arrived on Earth and watched from a distance as humans launched new missions and made incredible discoveries. The Vortarians were amazed at the speed of human progress. They saw humans overcoming obstacles that would have slowed down any other species. The Vortarians' amusement turned into concern. How could a species that was once so backward become so advanced in such a short time? They decided to make contact with humans to learn more. The Vortarians sent a delegation to Earth, expecting to find a primitive society that would be easy to manipulate. When the Vortarians arrived, they were stunned. The humans greeted them with a mixture of curiosity and bravado. The Vortarians were taken aback by the humans' confidence. They were not the timid explorers the Vortarians had expected. Instead, humans showed a remarkable level of self-assuredness and determination. During the initial meetings, the Vortarians struggled to understand human behavior. Humans were direct and sometimes brash. Their leaders spoke boldly, and their technology was both impressive and intimidating. The Vortarians tried to maintain their usual composure, but inside, they were unsettled. How could such a young species challenge their long-standing dominance? The Vortarians attempted to downplay the significance of human achievements. They assumed that humans' rapid progress was a fluke, something that would soon pass. However, as they observed more, they realized that this was not the case. Humans were not only advancing but also thriving. Their inventions were practical, their strategies effective, and their drive unyielding. In secret meetings, the Vortarians debated the implications of this new development. Some believed that humans were a passing phase, while others thought they might be a serious threat. There was a growing tension within the Vortarian ranks. They were used to being the top species in the galaxy, and the rise of humanity challenged their long-held beliefs. As the Vortarians continued to monitor human progress, they started to acknowledge the possibility that their perception of the galaxy was changing. The old assumptions about their superiority were being questioned. The rapid rise of humanity was a wake-up call. They were forced to confront the reality that the galaxy was not as static as they had once believed. The Vortarians could no longer ignore the reality that humans were a powerful and rapidly growing force. The initial surprise had turned into a deep-seated concern. The Vortarians realized they needed to reassess their position in the galaxy and prepare for a future where humans might play a significant role. The surprise of a lifetime had set the stage for a new era of galactic interaction, one where the Vortarians would need to rethink their place in the cosmos. The day finally came when the Vortarians and humans would meet face to face. It was a historic moment that both sides had been preparing for. The Vortarians, with their sleek and imposing starships, arrived at the designated meeting point in neutral space. Their ships gleamed with advanced technology, a symbol of their long reign over the galaxy. Humans sent their most respected diplomats to the meeting. The human ships, though not as flashy as the Vortarians, were robust and functional, showcasing their practical approach to technology. The scene was set for an encounter that would reveal much about both species. As the Vortarian delegation boarded the human flagship, they were greeted with a mixture of formality and warmth. The human crew, though slightly nervous, were determined to make a good impression. They had been preparing for this moment for a long time, understanding the importance of making a strong first impression. The Vortarian leader, a tall and regal being named Zelara, observed the humans with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. She had heard stories of human achievements, but seeing them in person was different. The humans were eager to show off their technology and discuss their plans for the future. The meeting began with polite but formal introductions. The human diplomats spoke with confidence, explaining their rapid advancements in space travel and their intentions for peaceful coexistence. They highlighted their achievements and the benefits of collaborating with them. The Vortarians listened carefully, though their faces remained stoic and unreadable. As the discussion progressed, it became clear that the two species had very different ways of thinking. The Vortarians were methodical and precise, valuing tradition and order. They approached negotiations with calculated strategies and careful considerations. In contrast, the humans were straightforward and enthusiastic. They spoke with passion and were eager to establish a rapport. The Vortarians tried to understand the human perspective, but their advanced logic and formalities clashed with the humans' more spontaneous and flexible approach. There were moments of awkward silence and misunderstandings. The Vortarians found the human style of communication to be somewhat blunt, while the humans were frustrated by the Vortarians' lack of openness. Despite the tension, there were moments of genuine connection. The humans shared stories of their history and culture, trying to bridge the gap between their way of life and that of the Vortarians. The Vortarians, though reserved, were intrigued by the humans' resilience and creativity. They began to see that humans were not just a passing curiosity, but a formidable force with their own strengths and values. During a break in the meeting, the human diplomats took the opportunity to give their Vortarian guests a tour of their ship. The Vortarians were impressed by the functionality and efficiency of the human technology, though they still viewed it as inferior to their own. The humans, in turn, were fascinated by the advanced features of Vortarian technology, though they noticed the rigidity in its design. As the meeting drew to a close, both sides exchanged pleasantries and agreed to continue their discussions. The Vortarians remained cautious, but were no longer dismissive of the humans. They acknowledged that humans were not to be underestimated and that their presence in the galaxy was significant. The first meeting ended with a mixture of relief and anticipation. Both the Vortarians and humans had learned much about each other, though many questions remained. The encounter had set the stage for future interactions, and both sides were now keenly aware that they were dealing with a new and influential player in the galactic arena. The initial discomfort had given way to a recognition of the need for mutual understanding and cooperation, marking the beginning of a complex and evolving relationship between the two species. As the Vortarians and humans continued their interactions, a sense of unease began to creep into their relationship. The initial curiosity and cautious optimism gave way to a more complex and tense dynamic. Both sides were discovering that their differences went beyond just technology. They had fundamentally different ways of thinking and operating. The Vortarians, though initially intrigued by human progress, soon became wary of their rapid expansion. Humans were not content with merely establishing colonies. They were pushing boundaries, exploring uncharted territories, and setting up new outposts at an astonishing rate. This bold and aggressive approach unsettled the Vortarians, who were accustomed to a more measured pace in their own expansion. Rumors started circulating among the Vortarian leadership about human activities. There were reports of human ships probing Vortarian-controlled areas and conducting surveys in regions that the Vortarians considered strategically sensitive. These actions were interpreted as provocations, even though the humans insisted they were merely exploring new frontiers. The Vortarians responded with heightened vigilance. They increased patrols and sent additional ships to monitor the areas where human activity was reported. The once cautious observers now took on a more defensive posture. The Vortarians' actions were intended to signal their displeasure and to assert their control over the regions they considered their own. Humans, on the other hand, felt increasingly frustrated. They had always prided themselves on their exploratory spirit and their right to explore space freely. The Vortarian response was seen as an attempt to intimidate and limit their expansion. Human diplomats tried to address the growing tensions through diplomatic channels, but their efforts were often met with suspicion and resistance from the Vortarians. The situation escalated when a minor skirmish occurred between human and Vortarian ships. It was a brief encounter sparked by a misunderstanding during a routine patrol. No serious damage was done, but the incident was enough to further strain relations. Both sides blamed each other for the clash, and the atmosphere of distrust deepened. In the wake of the skirmish, diplomatic meetings became more tense. The Vortarians accused the humans of being reckless and provocative, while the humans accused the Vortarians of being overly aggressive and unwilling to cooperate. The discussions that were once characterized by curiosity and exploration now became fraught with hostility and defensiveness. The Vortarians began to question their earlier assumptions about humans. They had initially thought that humans were just an interesting but ultimately insignificant species. Now, they were grappling with the reality that humans were becoming a serious player on the galactic stage. The Vortarians' previous dismissiveness had been replaced by a more serious concern about how to handle this new and unpredictable factor in their environment. At the same time, humans were growing increasingly aware of the Vortarians' intentions. They realized that their exploration efforts were being met with resistance and that their presence was viewed with hostility. This realization only fueled their determination to push forward and assert their right to explore and expand. As the tension mounted, both sides began to prepare for possible confrontations. The Vortarians reinforced their military presence, while humans focused on strengthening their own defenses and improving their technology. The once hopeful and cooperative relationship was now marked by suspicion and rivalry. The growing tensions between the Vortarians and humans set the stage for a more complex and contentious interaction. What had started as a curious exploration of each other's capabilities had evolved into a struggle for influence and control. Both sides were now deeply entrenched in their positions, and the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. The galaxy, once a vast and relatively peaceful expanse, was becoming a stage for a new kind of conflict. The interactions between the Vortarians and humans would shape the future of their relationship and potentially the balance of power in the galaxy. The growing tensions were a sign of the challenges and conflicts that lay ahead as both species navigated their evolving dynamic. The tensions between the Vortarians and humans had reached a boiling point. What had begun as a series of misunderstandings and minor skirmishes had now escalated into a full-blown conflict. Both sides were preparing for a decisive confrontation, each determined to assert their dominance and secure their interests. The Vortarians, underestimating the strength and resolve of humanity, decided to launch a major offensive. They gathered a formidable fleet, composed of their most advanced warships and supported by elite troops. Their goal was to drive human forces out of contested areas and reassert their control over strategic regions. On the other side, the humans were not about to back down. They had been preparing for this possibility for some time, fortifying their positions and enhancing their technology. Their ships, though not as flashy as the Vortarian vessels, were robust and designed for resilience. The human military leaders were ready to defend their newfound territories and prove their worth. The stage was set for a major battle in a contested sector of space, where a series of crucial planets and trade routes intersected. The Vortarian fleet approached with precision, their ships moving in tight formations. Their strategy was to overwhelm the human defenses with sheer numbers and firepower. As the Vortarian ships closed in, the human fleet sprang into action. The human ships were agile and well-coordinated, using hit-and-run tactics to strike at the Vortarian fleet's weaker points. The battle began with intense exchanges of laser fire and missile attacks. The vast expanse of space was lit up by the flashes of explosions and the trails of energy weapons. The Vortarians, confident in their superior technology, were initially taken aback by the humans' determination and tactical ingenuity. The humans used their ships' maneuverability to their advantage, darting in and out of combat zones and hitting the Vortarian vessels where they were least expected. The Vortarians were forced to adapt their strategy on the fly, struggling to cope with the unexpected aggressiveness of the human forces. As the battle raged on, both sides experienced heavy losses. Vortarian ships were damaged and destroyed, while human vessels suffered casualties as well. Despite their losses, the humans displayed remarkable resilience and resourcefulness. They repaired their ships in the midst of battle and used every advantage they could find to keep fighting. The turning point came when a critical Vortarian command ship was targeted by a daring human strike. The Vortarians had relied on this ship for coordinating their fleet, and its destruction caused chaos and confusion among their forces. Without their central command, the Vortarian fleet's effectiveness began to deteriorate. The humans seized the opportunity and intensified their attacks. Their coordinated strikes and relentless pressure began to push the Vortarians back. The once confident Vortarian fleet was now struggling to maintain its cohesion and effectiveness. The humans pressed their advantage, driving the Vortarians away from the contested sector. The battle concluded with a decisive human victory. The Vortarians, though still formidable, had been forced to retreat and reassess their strategy. The humans, though battered and weary, had proven their strength and resolve. The outcome of the battle had significant implications for the ongoing conflict and the balance of power in the galaxy. In the aftermath, both sides took stock of the damage and prepared for what lay ahead. The Vortarians were now fully aware that humanity was not to be underestimated. The humans had demonstrated their capability and willingness to fight for their place in the galaxy. The big fight had changed the dynamics between the Vortarians and humans. It was a clear message that neither side could easily dominate the other. The path forward would be marked by continued conflict, negotiation, and a reevaluation of strategies. The galaxy watched as these two powerful forces navigated the aftermath of their confrontation, each side determined to secure its place in the ever-shifting balance of power. In the wake of the intense battle between the Vortarians and humans, the galaxy faced a turning point. The conflict had shown both sides the strength and determination of the other. Now, with the dust settling and the immediate threat receding, there was an opportunity for a new beginning. The Vortarians, bruised but not broken, retreated to their home systems to regroup and assess their losses. The defeat had been significant, and the Vortarian leadership knew that continuing their aggressive stance towards humans would only lead to more conflict. They began to reconsider their approach, realizing that a new strategy was needed to handle this unexpected and formidable adversary. Meanwhile, the humans were busy recovering from the battle. Their victory was hard-won, and while they celebrated their achievement, they also faced the challenge of repairing their damaged fleets and re-establishing their supply lines. The human leaders knew that sustaining their success required more than just military might. It demanded diplomacy and cooperation. Both sides initiated efforts to open new channels of communication. The Vortarians, now fully aware of the human resolve and capability, approached with a willingness to negotiate. They sent emissaries to human space, proposing a series of meetings to discuss a possible peace settlement. The Vortarians wanted to find a way to coexist and avoid further bloodshed. The humans, while cautious, were open to the idea. They had proven their strength, but also understood that long-term peace was preferable to endless conflict. Diplomatic teams from both sides met in a neutral space station, a symbol of their desire to find common ground. The meetings were tense but productive, with both sides addressing their grievances and exploring possible solutions. During these discussions, the Vortarians and humans discovered shared interests that could form the basis for cooperation. Both species had a mutual interest in exploring new worlds, advancing technology, and ensuring the stability of their respective territories. By focusing on these common goals, they began to envision a future where collaboration could replace confrontation. One of the key breakthroughs came when the Vortarians offered to share some of their advanced technology with the humans, in exchange for human cooperation in maintaining the stability of contested regions. This proposal was met with interest from the human side, as it promised to enhance their technological capabilities while also providing a framework for ongoing collaboration. As the negotiations progressed, agreements were reached on several fronts. The Vortarians and humans established a joint task force to oversee the management of disputed areas, ensuring that both sides had a say in how these regions were governed. They also agreed on a series of trade and research partnerships aimed at fostering mutual benefits and building trust. The new era of cooperation began with cautious optimism. The Vortarians and humans embarked on joint missions to explore uncharted regions and work together on scientific advancements. The shared projects and collaborative efforts helped to build a foundation of trust and mutual respect. Both sides faced challenges in adapting to their new relationship. Old prejudices and misunderstandings did not vanish overnight, and there were still moments of friction and disagreement. However, the commitment to a peaceful coexistence provided a framework for addressing these issues constructively. The galaxy, once a stage for conflict, now saw the beginnings of a new order. The Vortarians and humans were no longer just rivals but partners in shaping the future. The new beginning was marked by a cautious but hopeful outlook, as both species worked to navigate their evolving relationship and build a more stable and cooperative galaxy. As the first agreements were implemented and new projects began, the Vortarians and humans realized that their shared journey was just beginning. The road ahead would be filled with challenges and opportunities, but the lessons learned from their conflict had set the stage for a more promising and collaborative future. The new beginning offered a chance to redefine their place in the galaxy and to work together towards a better and more harmonious existence.